is an amazing machine. I haven't counted all the parts, but I understand there are around 3,000 moving parts. It was described as the eighth wonder of the world back when it was developed in the late 1800s. It's just an amazing machine. It's fascinating to watch. It's fun to run, and you know, this machine here is about 60 years old, and it runs about as well as it came out of the factory. The operator doesn't, but the machine itself does.
Mike Coughlin has amassed a collection of outdated printing machines and is keeping a once common form of communication up and running.
The oldest press is 1880s and was made in Elmira, New York. The youngest press is, I'm going to say, around 1950. And that's my offset press, and everything else falls in between that. When I bought my first little platen press, I really began to fall in love with the technology, but I didn't know how to do it. And so I started reading books about it, picked up wherever I could find the books, and then I started bugging people who were still in the trade.
Good advice and lots of trial and error has enabled Superior Letterpress to niche out a unique market.
One of the things that I've found since moving up here to Cornucopia is that a lot of people really want letterpress wedding invitations, and so that's become a major part of my business, is doing wedding invitations for people. They like specially handmade papers or really nice mold-made papers, and I get a lot of paper from Europe for these wedding invitations. They like the feel of the type biting into the paper to create a different impression. One of the areas that I really want to get into more and more is book publishing. I'm doing book binding here, and I do some of my own hand paper making here. But I want to get into book publishing more, because there's a lot of people out there who have stories to tell, and that they'd like to tell it in short runs and have really good quality paper and nice impression and hand-bound books.
Mike's accumulation of equipment allows for endless possibilities. He has volumes of wood and metal handset type, headlining equipment, and the Linotype workhorse that used to dominate the industry.
When you went into old newspapers and magazine offices years ago, there would just be rows of these machines with operators sat there running them. It's a totally different keyboard, and it's set up on a different system in that all of the letters that are most commonly used, E-T-A-O-I-N, S-H-R-D-L-U, these are the most commonly used letters in the English language, and so those are the closest ones to the operator's hands. And this device here, this bar, is a spaceband bar. When I depress that, then one of the space bands comes down, and the space band is designed, it's a wedge, and it was key to keeping the patent on this machine for as long as it was able to be kept. But it's a wedge that is designed to drive the mats apart to create words.
It has been quite the journey to understand and master these heavy and complicated machines.
And that's one of the things that you learn over time, is each machine has its own personality and characteristics to it. And if you learn to play with it, it will work for you. Okay, everything looks good. Then I'll set my counter to 0. Figure out they want 500 cards, so now the feeding process begins. I'm on my own here, and if things break, these are older machines, and one of the machines when I came up here tipped over in the truck, and I broke the shaft on it, and so I had to find a scrap guy who had a shaft, and I put it back in. So that's one of the downsides of it, but the upside is that the machines were built to last. They're not like these computers today where every 3 years you're throwing the thing out because it's outdated. These things are outdated by 50, 60 years, but they work just wonderfully. And so, and they were made to last. They were good, solid American machines. And this machine is 1942, made in St. Paul. Kluge still manufactures presses in Wisconsin. They're more sophisticated than this, but they basically run the same way. They're really, all the machines that I have are just a creation, I think, of geniuses to be able to make everything work together and do such a good job.
As with any technology, old or new, there are always challenges around the corner.
since I wanted to get into more book publishing and book making, then I felt that I really needed to get a book sewing machine, and so this one, Halver Lines out of Superior just delivered this to me. It came out of New Jersey, and now I've got to learn how to operate it. I don't know that I don't have a manual on it either, and so I'm going to have to try to find some people who run the machine and talk to them and find out just what I need to do. But I finally got it hooked up for the electric, and it's really a cool machine too, but I'm going to have to learn how to run it.
Mike carefully runs his shop and keeps his equipment oiled and running by himself.
Here I have to order the paper, I have to clean the shop, I've got to deal with the customers, and then I have to set the type, I have to run the press, I have to mail the job, so I do everything. So there's just a real variety of things that I do all day. It's just satisfying to be able to do everything from beginning to end and have something that's really nice, and hopefully people will like it.